everybody. Welcome to the Sally Allen podcast. I am so glad you're here because I have a treat for you today. I have my friend Michelle Shepard, and she is here to share her story. Now, I heard her story just about a couple of weeks ago. We met for coffee, and I had no idea this woman went through what she did because she's so poised, she's so confident, and she's just so full of life. And sometimes you look at people and you're like, wait a minute, you went through what? And that's why I'm having her on the podcast today, so she can share her story of resilience with us. Now, Michelle Shepard is a music pastor at the Crossing Church. She's also a certified nutritionist. And she runs the Shepherd School of Business with her husband, Vance. I don't know where they find time to do all this stuff, but they're quite the busy couple. But I love having Michelle here. So Michelle, welcome to the Sally Allen podcast.
It is so good to be here with you. And you and I are such good friends outside of this. This is more of a formal setting for us. We're usually just, having a blast. We laugh a lot.
Yeah.
And, as we've had our friendship this last year, getting to know each other, just on a much deeper level, it's just been great. It's been great being your friend.
Yeah. You know what? She has become my BFF. And I have to share that God sent you at a time when I was transitioning out of some toxic relationships. And it was just the most amazing thing to have you in my life because you've changed my life so much. So thank you for being my friend, and thank you for being here.
And thank you for being my friend, my little tiny friend. Actually, I call you baby doll to everybody because you are literally half my size. I can scoop you up and I can carry you around with me.
So this is going public. I'm baby doll and she is Sunshine Spice.
Yeah. These are our actual nicknames.
Actual nicknames for each other. So, So Michelle, when I always I've seen you sing on stage at church, and I've seen you as poised and confident and all that. But when you shared your story with me, I couldn't believe what you went through. Just trekking across the country, trying to escape from someone. So tell us about that story.
Oh, I definitely will. And, a lot of people don't know this because I'm a pretty private person, and I love talking about where I'm at now and where God's brought me.
Yeah.
But I understand, too, that a testimony is really powerful.
Yes.
And what God has brought you out of can really minister to somebody else. And so when I feel like it's appropriate to share, I use the story in hopes that it will help people. But yes, when I was young, I met somebody in high school, and it was an extremely toxic relationship. I had extreme self-esteem issues. I had a really traumatic situation happen to me when I was in high school, and it really kind of set the trajectory for the next few relationships that I would have. And the relationship with this particular guy was so physically abusive, mentally, spiritually, and I ended up marrying him. And thinking that the situation would be better if I could just, he would always say, if we were just married, our relationship would be so much better. And I knew that that was not the smart thing to do. But somewhere inside of me, I thought, well, maybe by some miracle, the ring gets put on the finger and you have the marriage license and things will fix themselves. And it didn't. And we were married for 6 weeks, and it had been a horrible 6 weeks, very physically abusive. And I finally realized I'm going to lose my life. There were so many situations where I thought, God, I should have been dead. I shouldn't have even lived through that. Mm-hmm. And I realized I had to get away. And so I ended up taking off in the middle of the night, not telling anybody, not even including my family, where I was going, because I knew that he would find a way to get them to tell him information about where I was at. And so I took off, and I basically disappeared. And I ended up doing this 7 different times.
Wait, before you go into the 7 different times, you told me this story before, but I'm really paying attention now. Oh my gosh. So you were only married for 6 weeks. Tell me your mindset going into the marriage. Did you think you were gonna help him? Did you think, when you're married, you're like, okay, we were meant to be one. You shouldn't treat me this way. What was your thought process going into it? Because 6 weeks is not a long time to realize I shouldn't be here.
No, I knew it even as we were getting married. Something inside me was just like, this is never going to change, but I didn't know how to get out of it because he was so controlling and just had a way of just always drawing me back in. So there would be abuse. We would separate out for a minute and then he would draw me back in. There were times when he had attempted to take his life because I had separated from him. And so,
Manipulation.
number one, I was scared that he was going to commit suicide. And I saw enough good in him that I thought there's got to be something that we can do to fix this situation, right? Because he wasn't all evil, he wasn't all a bad person. And so I just thought that there was something redeeming there, and especially with marriage being part of it, like it could be fixed.
Yeah. Michelle, did you feel like this was a broken cycle, that he was living a cycle from his past?
I do.
Yeah.
I think it was something that he had seen modeled for him in his childhood.
Yeah.
He also had a drug problem that I didn't even know the extent of the drug problem. I had no idea. I guess from everything that I've heard from people that knew him back then, he was doing an 8 ball of cocaine a day. I didn't know. And that's where the rage issues were coming in and the personality, dysfunctional issues were there and the abusive behavior. I just was naive. I was young. I was 19 years old.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah,
young.
totally.
If I could go back and
Yeah.
tell my former self, oh my gosh, all the things I would tell myself.
Yeah, yeah. So then you ran off 6 weeks later. What was that moment that opened your eyes to be like, I am going to be dead if I stay here? What was that moment?
Okay, the moment was we were in our little apartment. We had gotten into an argument and he started hitting me. And I went in the kitchen, grabbed a butcher knife out of the drawer, and I ran after him and got him against the wall. And I had the point of the knife in his throat. And every single thing in me wanted to push it through his throat. I wanted to kill him. And I knew that I was going to go to jail for the rest of my life for murder. And that was when I was like, I can't do this. And he was scared at that point because he knew that like his life was in my hands. Yeah. And I know that it was a work of God, that blade didn't go through, and that I ended up dropping the knife and running out to a friend's house for safety. Ended up calling the police. They came and got him. They put him in a mental wellness facility for a few days. That's what allowed me to actually get away, slip away overnight, because I knew he was going to be released.
Right.
And I knew that he would come after me and he would kill me. And so that's when I took off. And through that, I ended up relocating between Arizona, California, Nevada, Idaho. I kept ping-ponging all these different places because he would eventually find me. And this was 7 times. This was like, if you've seen the movie Sleeping with the Enemy, it literally was like that. Wow. Except he wasn't rich. He was not a rich guy. But other than that, it was sleeping with the enemy, and it was just me having to pick up and restart my life 7 different times.
Wow, just overnight, you got to pick up and go.
And couldn't tell anybody. I would make friends where I was at. I would have coworkers that I would be friends with, and I would just disappear.
Wow.
I had to.
Yeah, yeah. So then you must have lived in fear a lot, right? Fear, anxiety. How did you get over that and be the person you are today?
How I got over that was literally by the grace of God. I know I've always had this knowledge and this understanding that God was with me and that God was going to lead me and guide me. I always held on to that no matter what. And I'm so glad that all of those situations didn't pull my eyes off of that. I always felt like if I just keep pushing and if I just keep doing what I need to do, God's going to show up for me. And he has. And he brought, someone into my life that I've now been married to for almost 28 years. We've been together for 32 years.
Congratulations.
And
That's
it's so
amazing.
wonderful what God has done. It's so wonderful what God has redeemed and took such a nightmare of a situation and years of my life, But I believe through all of those trials and all of those things that I went through and being on the run and having to start over, that resiliency was building each time. Even though it was a horrific situation,
Yeah, yeah.
I think it set me up for where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and you and I touched base a little bit on this today. Like, you never went to therapy or did anything. It was just by the grace of God, having faith,
Yep.
knowing that He's always there for you. That has kept you through, and you grew stronger through that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm also sure that your music had a part to do with your resiliency.
Music is
Music is
awesome.
awesome.
Yeah.
When did you become a singer, and how did that? Because I think it's so good for the soul for us who listens to it. So for you, who actually puts out what soothes our soul, what did music do for you? When did you start? What did it do for your soul?
Well, I've had music as part of my life for my whole life. So
Yeah,
even when I
yeah.
was just tiny, probably 4 or 5 years old, my grandma was showing me, songs to play on the piano and different hymns and things like that. So that was my first instrument. My second instrument was the violin. And then I just started kind of stacking on instruments as I went because I loved music so much. I loved being able to do that. When I met my now husband, he was a touring musician. And so when we started dating, about a year into our dating, we ended up joining forces musically. And that was when I was going, kind of in that season of my life where I was going through and I was on the run and I was moving from city to city, ended up in the Reno, Tahoe area, which is where I met my husband, my now husband, Vance. And music was awesome. We immediately, just started taking our show on the road, so to speak, and we toured for 18 years. And just having somebody to share music with, to make other people happy with through music. And I didn't even understand the whole God calling of music on my life, like where it's at right now.
Right.
Back then, it was literally just, entertaining people through music. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, wow, this is actually my job. Like, I can play and sing and I get paid for it. Like, that's amazing, know? And now it's such a different thing. It's, where God has brought me, and with me being a worship pastor now, and literally music is for my soul. It's singing to God. It's bringing others to the heart of God. That's a whole other realm of healing.
Yeah, I love that. What was that defining moment when you knew, I now need to sing for God?
There was a defining moment. So my husband and I were watching Charles Stanley, Pastor Charles Stanley. He just passed away a couple months ago. But he was a pastor that we would always listen to when we were traveling from town to town. We were always listening to his broadcast called In Touch. For those of you who know it, you know how amazing he is. And we were at home one night on the 4th of July, and his In Touch ministries came on TV, and we were watching it. And something that he had said sparked something in Vance and I looked at each other, and we were like, I think we're supposed to actually go into the church now and do music for the church. We had always felt like we were supposed to be musicianaries outside of the church walls. We always just felt like, no, we're supposed to be out there, know?
Right.
And that one message that Charles Stanley gave, it was in like 2000, I believe it was 2003 or 4. And he said something, and literally we just both looked at each other and we said, okay, I think we're supposed to go in the church walls now, and we're supposed to do ministry for the church. And we know it was a God thing because we literally looked at each other at the same time. We're like, okay, this is a switch.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did your past and everything you've been through, does it come back even with your music ministry or who you are today? Do you have triggers, and something triggers you, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, sometimes. So there'll be times throughout the whole last 32 years, there'll be times when the phone rings and I answer it, there's no one there. Well, there's someone there, but they're not saying anything. Or there's heavy breathing on the other end, or different things like that are just kind of freaky. And you just go, oh my gosh, like, dear God, like, don't let this be him.
Yeah.
And I've never known if it was him when those calls have come in. I don't know. I'm just praying and assuming not,
Yeah.
hoping for the best. But yeah, there's triggers sometimes. But I also know that, this is 32 years later. And, I mean, that's
Long
that's a
time.
whole other
Yeah.
life. That is a whole life right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And I am not the same person that I was. God has brought me so far in healing and just my faith and my trust in God that I almost feel like that person was, even though she was me, I'm so much further down the road now. So even though there are once in a while those little things that make you go, you
Yeah.
just go, no, God, my life is yours and you've got me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's amazing because I can't tell for 1 minute. Like, I just see you as so resilient. I couldn't tell you've been through that. And I try to picture you with the knife in your hand, and I can't. I can probably picture that. Like, don't mess with you. It push you too far. Don't push you too far. So what do you do like these days to continue to build your resiliency and build your mindset? What are some of the things you do?
I would say daily rhythms are super important, and being in God's church and being around God's people. And man, there's nothing like that. Like to have the community and the support that we get to experience because we are, in the walls of the church and around people that have the same faith, and we lift each other up, we encourage each other, we inspire each other. And if I'm feeling low one day, I can borrow somebody else's faith. Just our friendship. Like I know if I'm feeling low on a day, I know Sally Allen's going to be there to cheer me up.
Yes.
And you have those special people in your life that you can reach out to. And I feel like everybody needs that, not only for our spiritual health, but even just physical health and mental health, and all of that comes into play. So I would say my church community and the strong relationships that I have,
Yeah.
and the relationships that I have even with older women that I look at and I say, that's who I want to be when I'm that age. That's who I want to be 10 years down the road. That's how I want to inspire younger women.
Yeah, yeah, I like that a lot. I've heard this somewhere. Somebody was, I don't remember where, but they were talking about friendships and the type of friendships we should have, sort of like a friendship model. And older women, yeah, but that we learn from, younger people that we mentor, and then our peers in the middle, people who can really understand us. And I always look for people like that in my life, right? I see it as, I call it the friendship model. But I like that. That's what you're describing.
Yeah.
Like it's how you have healthy friendship. We were talking yesterday, talking about friendship, and we were talking about, people who drains us.
Oh, yeah.
Right? How do you handle that? Like when you are in relationships, and because we're talking here about your mental resiliency, and you always have to keep your mental resiliency strong.
Yeah.
But when you have a friend that you're telling them over and over again, you need to leave him. Mm-hmm. You need to do this. You need to do that. How long do you give them? I heard someone said like 6 months. Like for you, how long do you tolerate that before you said, okay, I've done enough. You have everything that I have. I don't have anything more to give you.
Yeah, that's hard because you have different people that are on different levels of their spiritual walk, from people that know Christ and the power of salvation to people that they don't have any type of religious faith or spiritual background. And so you're dealing with those different relationships. But, I'm careful who I let really into my close circle, because you want to have people that fuel your soul, that are good for you, and then there's people that I get to minister to more on a pastoral level, right? And so, and you have all those different relationships in between, and I think it's a case by case. And I realize that no matter how much you tell somebody something, until they're ready to make that change, it's not going to happen. And that cycle's going to keep going. There has to be something that shakes them out of that. And for each person, I think it's different. it's on a case by case, so it's hard to say. But yes, I agree that you can have people in your life that just, when you're around them, they will drain your resources. Not that that's a bad thing, because I think we're supposed to be able to drain out, right?
Pour into
Yeah, we're
people.
supposed to pour into them.
Yeah.
And the Holy Spirit that's in us, we're supposed to give that away to other people and help them. But there comes a time where you have to also know, like, I need to be okay myself. Like,
Right.
maybe I need to take time for myself,
Yeah.
and I need people that will pour into me.
Yeah, I do that with my clients. I have my water bottle somewhere, but I would hold it up and I would say to them, if you are just having the headspace and you're giving away this much headspace as the same person over and over and over again, what do you have left?
Exactly.
Right? You can't, you don't have, you have a 50% that you're working with. So at some point, you got to draw the line and be like, okay, that's enough.
Totally.
So you can have your full headspace back.
Absolutely.
And I like what you said. People are in different walks of life, and sometimes it's okay to let some of them go because that's what they need, and they don't even realize it. Times.
Yep.
So now you and your forever husband,
He's amazing.
he is amazing. Tell us, you do some fun things together, like you music. Tell us some of the things you guys do.
Oh, we
that
do
are
the funnest things
fun.
together.
Yeah.
So our very first date,
Yeah.
and we met each other at a music store. So fitting.
Yeah.
And he was like a guest. He was a guest appearance at this music store, and he was, a touring artist at the time, and a lot of people knew who he was. And he was demoing different keyboards, and I just happened to walk in there, one day when he was there, and the clouds opened up and the angels started singing and all that. But he ended up asking me, what are you doing tonight? I would love to take you out.
Yeah.
And he said, it's my friend's birthday party, and there was this club that there was going to be this birthday party at. And I said, okay, I'll go with you.
Yeah.
And so we went and we played pool and we drank root beer, and it was the funnest night. We just talked and laughed and had the greatest time. And would you know, 32 years later, we still play pool all the time. It's like, that's how our dating started, and we still
Right.
date.
Yeah.
We go out and we play pool all the time. We, love to go to the movies. We do music together. We have, our volleyball group that we have every week that we just absolutely love. So we love building community.
Yeah.
We love providing, places and spaces for people to be able to come and meet new people and create new relationships, healthy relationships. That's a huge deal to us to help try to foster those kinds of situations. So we stay really active and have lots of
Yeah.
friends.
So do you think that's what kept 32 years is a long time, right? And I know you guys have a lot that you do in common, but what really, what glues your marriage together? What would you say if someone says, what glues you and your husband together? What keeps that marriage together?
Yep. Number one, it's God.
It's God.
I mean, literally. And,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that to be cliche, because it sounds like a cliche answer.
Yeah.
It's not. Because we've put God in the center.
Yeah.
So everything that we do, as we're moving through life and as we're making decisions and as we're deciding, is this the path that we should go down, or is this the path that we should go down? It's always, we have to hear from God before we do it. And so that's so crucial. And another thing is that we do everything together. And we're always, if we don't do it together, we don't do it at all. Like we don't have like completely separate lives and then we just meet in the evenings for dinner,
Right.
Like we literally, all of our decision making, everything we do, we love building things together. And I think that God has uniquely gifted each one of us. We have different giftings and different strengths and different weaknesses. Where I'm weak, my husband is so strong.
Yeah.
And he fills in that gap, right? It's just like, here I am, here he is. And when you have it together, and especially with God in the center, it's beautiful. It doesn't mean it's not work.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that, that we don't have to sacrifice for each other and give to each other maybe when we each don't feel like it in the moment or whatever. But that's, when you have a relationship and mutual respect, and, we're best friends because we talked a little bit about this, but Vance and I, when we first started dating, we we both had Christian faith. We were new to the whole Jesus thing. Didn't really know what it meant to walk that out. And so our first year and a half of our relationship, we did not date in the biblical model.
Right.
We didn't. And so Vance came to me a year and a half into our relationship as we started growing closer to God. And he said, hey, we have to stop living the way that we're living, and we need to go backwards.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, gulp, what does that mean? You know, I had no idea. I was like, oh, so we're breaking up. And he was like, no, we're not breaking up. We just have to like refigure our whole relationship and start over again. And so we dated for 3 years, really walking with God. And as difficult as that was, that 3 years solidified our friendship and really built that deep, deep friendship where he is my best friend, like on the planet, you know? And he truly loves me for who I am. Like he sees me every single day, all day long. He sees the real me. And he loves me. Don't know why, but he does. And I believe it was during that 3 years that we built that solid foundation that's lasted this whole time.
Well, I know why.
Of course you do.
I know why. You know why. Yeah, you are freaking amazing.
Oh.
What's not to love? Right? Just sunshine all the way.
Well, God's amazing.
So when we started, you had said something, if I could tell my younger self, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, I would tell my younger self, God has the most amazing person for you. And that, I don't want to cry. Ooh, I'm going to cry. Okay, I'll cry. I would tell my younger self, just hold on. Just hold on. Because the person that I have created specifically for you is not going to come into your life until you're almost 21 years old. Hold out. Hold out. And man, it would have saved so much suffering if I could have known that. But part of our journey is that we don't get to see the future. We don't get to see what's in front of us. God knows. And that's why when we put our complete faith and trust in him, he will lead us and guide us and give us that discernment. But at that point, when I was in that tumultuous time of my life, I didn't have that, you know? And that's why I want to tell people, wherever they're at on their spiritual journey, God has something amazing for you, and he's created you for such purpose, right? And for you to affect and inspire other people's lives. Just hold out and do it God's way, because God's way is the best way.
Yeah. Would you say sometimes we look back, like I look back at my life and I know I wouldn't want a thing to change because it molded me to who I am today. And I know it's tumultuous and having to move. Do you look back and say, like, it really did mold me to who I am today and I won't change a thing?
I go back and forth on that. On one hand, I say, yes, absolutely. I wouldn't change anything because I'm sitting in this chair today, the person that I am, married to the person I'm with, a worship pastor at an amazing church, like all the things, right?
Right.
But some of the other horrific things that have happened in my life, man, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I don't know, if I would want to say that, yes, they've shaped me, but there was a lot of suffering there too. And I know that the enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
That's his mission. And yes, on the one hand, I'm here, the person that I am today, married to who I am. But if there was any other way that I could have ended up in the Reno Tahoe area at that music store that day at that time, you would
welcome that.
Yeah, it's exactly. I would welcome that for sure.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. So I've started doing this thing where I ask, I bring it down to a fun question. And I think your fun question is going to be, what's on your nightstand?
What's on my nightstand? Oh my gosh, you're going to laugh. Okay. Literally, this is what's on my nightstand. You're so funny. Okay. Okay, I have a lamp. I have a Kindle that is face down that has not been picked up for about 2 years now. Okay. And I put on my, okay, I have a little cell phone that's a really old, it's an iPhone 4, don't judge. It's my alarm clock. Okay, I don't use it for anything other than alarm clock that just vibrates, right? So that's on my nightstand. And then I put on my nightstand every single night my three little sunset gel tabs that are my omega-3s that I take at night before I go to bed so that I will sleep awesome and that I will dream in Technicolor. I will dream in Technicolor. And that's what's on my nightstand. So that probably changed y'all's life just hearing that. But yeah.
But that was fun though. And
there you go.
On your nightstand. I've been in your bedroom and I realized I didn't look at the nightstand. I'm like, what's, But so what's a takeaway for our audience today?
Oh, gosh. A takeaway is that no matter where you are, God is always going to be there. We think that God is far from us. God is never far from us. We are the ones that remove ourselves from God, right? Depending on the choices that we're making and different things like that. And I want people to know that God is real, that God cares, God has a plan, God has a purpose, and that he will use your life, no matter how traumatic, no matter where you've been, no matter what guilt you carry around for things you've done. God can redeem all of that. And God can use that testimony to bless other people if you will let him. So that's the main point that I would want to drive home today.
Thanks for sharing, Michelle. I know you haven't shared this story with too many people, so I am blessed and honored that you're sharing your story here today, because it's going international now, right?
Yes, I do. Heart beating.
I'm so grateful for your friendship and to open up to me. I appreciate that. Well, friends, what's my takeaway today? My takeaway, friendships are amazing. Friendships are amazing, and when God brings two people together and he brings them at the right time and he opens up that door, you know that it's all him, because I needed this woman at that time in my life. And I'm so grateful and thankful for you. So whatever door God opens up, no one can close, and whatever door he closes, no one can open up. So with that, thank you for listening. Until next time. How was that?